I want to thank you all for joining us. We're excited. Today's a little bit different. And usually when we have someone that comes in as a guest speaker or any other capacity, we like to have them on. And if you know anything about the Federated Church, I'm sure a lot of you that listen as members of the Fed know exactly what I'm talking about. But this is our outdoor expo season. And we are in between. So at the time of the recording, we had our expo last night. We're recording this early evening on Saturday, and we're getting ready to ramp it up and have another group of people in. Last night we sold out, so there was 300 tickets sold, not counting some of the vendors and all the workers and all that stuff. And then tonight we are sold out of tickets as well. There's a couple people that reached out to me this afternoon and was like, hey, what if I have a +1 or if there's like 1 or 2 extras? So we're going to pack in every seat that we have tonight. So we also don't want to turn anybody away, but we're excited. This is a tremendous ministry that we have, and it has been, like I said, 26 years. And so today I have the speaker, which is Joel Proffit, which we're excited about. Joel, go ahead, introduce yourself and tell us a little bit just about you and your family before we get into your story.
Yeah, awesome. And I appreciate you having me, Malcolm. It's just, I almost called you Michael.
That's okay. No.
I'm sure you've been called worse, right?
Yes.
But no, sure. I really appreciate you having me, and it's been awesome to be back in Pennsylvania. And I say back because I grew up here and grew up out in eastern PA. And the Pocono Mountains was my home. In elementary school. I talked to you a little bit about this, but elementary school ended up till about 93.
Okay.
Living over in the Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania area, and then moved down to North Carolina. My dad was a Christian school teacher, and so we moved down there. Graduated college, which I went to college in Wisconsin. Graduated college, met my wife. Got married in 2003, moved back out to the Poconos, Pennsylvania. Began a family right before we moved out to Wyoming, and that was in 2009. Her family's originally from Cody, Wyoming, and so I got an offer to work at a church out there in full-time ministry, and so we made the leap, and 3,000 miles later we landed in Cody. So,
when in 2009? I haven't made this connection.
It was September. September 2009. Yeah.
Okay, June of 2009 is when my wife and I got married. That's why I
there
asked.
You go.
So,
yeah.
I was going to say it's yes, you've been out there for a little bit,
14-ish years. Yeah,
which is great. And you have how many kids? I know the answer, but
yep. No, we have 3 kids, ages 16, 14, and 12. And they were begging me to come along on this trip.
Yeah. I was going to say, which would have been fun, but not the cheapest thing in the world.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
So they were dying, especially my son, because he knew that, and I'd showed him pictures in the past of some fish I'd caught right here in Walnut Creek, in Erie, and I spent a lot of time here in Erie in those 6.5 years that I spent in the Poconos. I would travel over to Erie to fish, and my wife would travel with me. We clear out the back of the van, and that was our bed, and then she would crochet on the banks of Walnut Creek while I fished.
She fished. That's awesome.
All day long.
Did she ever get into fishing, or?
What's interesting is that her dad took her fishing as a youngster, and they fished, but it was more like the mountains of Wyoming where you could drop a hook in there, bare hook, and just pull out brookies, and then you eat them. You put them over the fire, and awesome. And then we fished a little bit in college, but man, as she got older and we got married, whatever, and it's just like her desire to fish kind of like fell by the wayside, unless we're catching. I mean, unless it's awesome, and then we're catching. But she had not really hunted with her family and her dad. So when we got married, I got her out for her first deer tag, and she shot her first deer, and she's like, This is awesome. This is a ton better than fishing. So
I'm laughing because I'm sure we'll get into, as we talk about your story a little bit later. I was just going to jokingly say she didn't want to make you feel bad fishing since she has the bigger.
She has the tendency to get the bigger trophies. That's right.
I was just saying, and you shared that as part of your talk last night.
Right.
So that's why.
Yes.
And we were, which was great. Those, and they were. they were some massive.
There's some good
got.
elk. Yeah.
Yeah. Not that
you've
not gotten, some good bulls yourself, but
I'm honestly, I'm stoked. I could care less myself. I mean, I've shot a number of bulls. I'm just stoked. And my wife, my kids, that's what I'm out for now. The last 2 years, I haven't even looked at an elk through the scope.
Yeah,
I mean,
really,
it's been all my kids.
But you've been guiding so much for like Hunt for a Lifetime, and I'm sure we'll get into all that stuff later. But like, there's some stuff with that opportunity as well, correct?
Yes, I actually do a lot of volunteer guiding, and I want to make sure that's clear because technically I'm not allowed to be paid if I'm not a guide for an outfitter, and I don't get paid to guide.
Yeah,
it's all volunteer. It's all fun. It's all mentoring kids. Yeah. And our organization does a lot with the Outdoor Dream Foundation and terminally ill young people. Yeah. And in the past, I have guided some terminally ill youngsters, having to use a syringe to make the gun go off and blow through a tube and, those types of things. And so in the past, I've done a lot of that. Not so much recently. The last few years has kind of been a switch. For me in my life in the hunting realm, as my kids were younger, kind of, they were at home with mom type of thing, and so I spent a lot of time taking other kids, you know, and I mean a lot. You go to the Polestar Outdoors website, go to our Facebook page, you'll see pictures from years ago of me with kids, lots of hunts, and I've had to make a switch as it came into my kids now starting to get into their age, the outdoors is my passion. It's huge, it's a huge part of my life. It's what I did with my dad when I was a kid. And so, growing up, that was, I dreamed of having my own kids and doing it with them.
Yeah, to be able to do that.
Absolutely, as I did with my dad. And so I got to a point where I had to say, I had to make a choice. Like, my kids are not going to grow up to say, Dad had time for everybody else, but not me.
Absolutely.
And I, in talking with the president of Polestar Outdoors, our organization, and the some of the board members there, they totally understand that. And so in the past few years, I've spent a lot more time just with my kids. I still have, there was still one of the young men that I've actually shared in the Outdoor Expo talk last night. Isaac, his dad worked for me, and his dad passed away due to some diabetes complications. And so he's lost his dad, and so I've continued to mentor him the past several years in the outdoors and get together with him. And then he has a friend who is also in our church. And so the last couple of years, I've actually gotten him out. And this past year, he shot a nice antelope buck and a nice cow elk. So
nice.
We've done a lot of mentoring. A lot of kids and stuff, but I have made that switch, so I don't do so much with other kids right now. So.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I didn't realize, in our conversations that you haven't even looked at one through a scope in a couple of years. Which is,
2 years I haven't looked at one through a scope, which is pretty.
That's crazy.
But
there's seasons for everything.
Right.
So that's kudos to you for taking advantage as your kids are in this stage. And making sure that's the priority,
and it's fun. I love it. I absolutely. I don't care that I haven't looked at an elk through the scope. It's just like I really don't care. Do I like to shoot a big bull? Sure, I do.
Yeah.
I consider everything that I get with a kid, that was mine too. I could have shot that.
For sure. Yeah.
So
you could have shoved them aside and grabbed the rifle.
That's right. I don't care. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, and it's also like almost like the giving and receiving. I'm not sure what that alarm is, but as you're listening, you can ignore it because that has something to do with something else. It's not like a fire alarm where we got to exit.
It actually is the fire alarm, but
is it?
And it went off yesterday. They had an issue with it.
Yeah, like it's malfunctioning.
It had an issue with it, and so somebody I think Pastor Rick just came out of the office.
So he's probably gonna.
Go.
It shut off. Good. So it won't be too much of a distraction. And it's neat because it's kind of like for you, it's the whole saying, it's better to give than to receive. Well, there's a lot of truth to that.
100%,
Especially
man.
when you view something as an opportunity to be a ministry.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
so really, as we hear your story more, we'll hear that hunting is not just a passion; it's a passion and a ministry for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so the irony of all of this is, like I said, the 26th annual outdoor expo. I keep wanting to call it a game dinner because that's what it was when it first started.
Sure.
But the irony is none of the 4 pastors at this church hunt. Our youth pastor hunted in his youth. The other 3 pastors have never hunted.
Sure.
Our staff director doesn't hunt, and it's something that we have a large group of men and women that are volunteers that are passionate about it, and it's a great ministry opportunity.
100%.
And so we love what this does because there are so many individuals that will come to this that won't come to church.
Absolutely.
Or won't,
Absolutely.
So the ministry aspect of this, all of us find tremendous value in it. And it's easy for us to find tremendous value in it because, like I said, we have so many volunteers that like all of the food is donated. Except for like the the church buys like the incidentals, but all of the meat is donated by people throughout the year. There is a group that we get together a week before, and there's a couple paid staff that help, but it's predominantly all volunteers, that are here prepping the food and cooking, and that they were here all day yesterday, all day today, staying late at night, and so it is neat to have this because when you find a passion in life, no matter what it is, when you get with like-minded people that have the same passion, as you grow to know them, it affords you the ability to have conversations that you might not otherwise be able to have.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Absolutely.
And that's why, like I told you before, I still coach track. It's my chance to not be in ministry world all the time. And today was the first indoor track meet I went to with just a handful of my team that's not doing a winter sport. And there was another local pastor that is a head coach at another school. Yeah. And we just, said hi, and he's like, in between athletes going, he had his little tablet. He's like, I'm reading through a commentary, That's awesome. But then being intentional to have conversations with others around. Yeah. And there's a ton of people in that room that I haven't seen since last spring, but the like-mindedness, then there's these conversations that we can have just about life, about what's going on, and then that does lead to God, which is great. Absolutely. It's a tremendous chance. Yeah. So share a little bit about, as eventually I want to hear like what got you into like using hunting for a ministry and all of the different things that you do with that. But share a little bit about how you got into the outdoors. You said you went with your dad, but then how does that go from, and just so nobody's misled, not that we're trying to, you are co-owner or owner of a construction company? I know,
so I own a company called Proffit Enterprises out in Cody, Wyoming. I was in full-time ministry in a church for 4 years full-time, and then I was 4 years part-time. And during the part-time years, I had to obviously find something secular to do to make ends meet. And I have a background in lawn and landscape. You know,
because you did that in the Poconos.
I did, right? I did it in the Carolinas as well through high school. So I have a background in lawn maintenance, landscape stuff, whatever. And so I still had a lot of my equipment at the time, and so I thought, well, I really had thought I would never get back into this, but guess what? Here I am. So I might as well start something up, and so I, got this little business going, and then in 2014, 2013 into 14, one of the guys in my church heard about it, and he actually said, "Hey, man, how can I pray for you?" And I said, I've got this little business. It looks like it's going to grow, and I really could use another hand, and don't really know what to do about that. He says, "Well, you know what?" He says, "I'm actually looking for another job." He says, "Let me kind of think about this. Let's sit down and talk about it. I'll pray about it, whatever." And so, long story short, he had a background in construction. so we started. He hated mowing grass before, but he's like, if this really seems like it's like the Lord's leading to something here. So we got together and started mowing grass together. And he's like, yeah, if I'm getting paid and I'm doing it for my family's living, then I'll do it. So we worked together there for year and a half, and right away, literally within 2 months, our business doubled. And I mean, it was like the town was in need of some quality service in that field. And it got to a point where it's like, we've either got to split.
Yeah.
Because during the slow time in the winter, he's like, why don't we offer some, decks, fences, patios, just to kind of keep things going while we're not cutting grass? And I was like, hey, I don't care. Sure. And we worked out a deal because he knew the construction field. I didn't. I didn't know the construction field at all. And I knew the landscape and lawn field. He didn't have a clue, So it's like, so we worked a trade off on that and how who gets what pay and all that stuff. And it worked out great. But then we got to a point where it's like, okay, wait a minute here. The construction stuff, and they're both growing like crazy. So either we got to come together, form a company. Yeah. A company that, do we partner or don't we? Or do I just own this or
what does this look like? Yeah.
So we had to kind of lay some groundwork there, but we chose to come together and have one solid company, and I would be the owner. He says, look, he said, you treat me right and I'll stick with you, no big deal. And so 10 years later, he's still with me, and we've done a lot of work. Yeah. We also have my brother came out, and my brother has a background in custom woodwork. And so we have 3 divisions of the company. We have the Proffit's lawn and landscape aspect of it. Then we have the full curl construction, and the full curl is like a ram's curl, full curl construction. Yeah. And then we also have Yellowstone Artisans custom woodwork and cabinetry. Okay. So, and they work all together. I mean, we've gotten jobs from the ground up. From the new construction build of the house to the landscape to the cabinetry inside, the whole deal. So that's what a lot of people like about our company. Yeah. So that's what I do right now. I'm the owner of a company, but my desire has always been to utilize my passions that God's given me in the outdoors, in the outdoor world, whether it be hunting and fishing. Actually, if you see some of my gospel tracts that are sitting on my table out there's some that are geared straight toward fishing. Yeah. Because I did a lot of fishing, especially back when I was here in PA. I did a ton of fishing out here. Yeah. And when I moved out to Wyoming, I did some, but it wasn't as much. Yeah. And I got more into the hunting world. So anyway, but that was my passion, is to really use what God gave me and the love of the outdoors to bring people to Him. Yeah.
And so it's not something that you are able to do full time and and so like you said, you have to make choices because your first ministry is to your wife and kids. Yeah,
absolutely.
But how God has worked it so that you found a way to do both. And so as that's been happening, there's something that this is going to be a stereotype that I shouldn't have, but like you also appreciate your video that we'll get into a little bit, Broken. You appreciate the artistry of video. Like there's a lot of people that do videos for hunt and all that stuff. A lot of raw footage. You have some raw footage, but you also really like the, not that it's overproduced, but the story, the story behind it.
Yeah, putting
there's
a story
production,
together.
Yes. So how did that develop in
it was awesome.
Not that you're not like a rough, tough hunter, but usually those don't mix as much.
I'll tell you, the Lord has blessed. The Lord brings people in your life at certain points, and it's very, very. You look back, you go, dude, I know why the Lord brought that guy into my life or that person into my life, whatever. And so, back when I was in full-time ministry, I worked with an individual. He was on the sound team. Okay. And I was on, I was in the music. I was worship leader. So, this guy he worked for a company called the Best of the West, and he was their video editor for TV. I mean, they were on the Sportsman Channel, Outdoor Channel, whatever, and they would have the Best of the West show on TV, cable TV. So we got to work together a little bit because some of our youth hunts were featured with the Best of the West show.
Yeah.
And I was able to host the Best of the West show once in a while. And, and so as we got into outdoor ministry back in 2010 or so, when we started a Beast Feast at our own church in Cody, and we also started a sportsman's retreat in the fall at our church there.
Yeah.
We started to do little bits and pieces of video that would, again, my ideas, but this guy would help me bring them to life. Using video. I had ideas, but I had no clue what I was doing with Premiere Pro. You know what I mean? And if you know what Premiere Pro is, it's the Adobe movie making system. And I mean, this guy this is what he did all the time. He worked with Avid, he worked with Premiere Pro, he worked, and I walk into his studio and I'm going, Gary, are you kidding me right now?
Yeah,
like, how do you know how do you know how to do all this stuff? Like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
And so we just started working together. And the very first video we did is called the European Mount, and it's actually it's on my channel. I'll show it to you a little later. But it's using do you know what a European Mount is?
No.
Not being a hunter. Okay, so
total novice when
right. So basically, when you saw those bull elk on the wall last night in the picture, you didn't see the fur and the head, half the neck.
It was just like the skull,
just the skull
and the antlers,
just the white skull and antlers, and that's what we call as a European mount.
Okay,
all right. And so I got to think about that. Just that unique part of a hunter's life. He wants a European mount.
Yeah.
And so we took this European mount and we made a video on how the Lord takes a nasty, or a taxidermist takes a nasty skull, right? Yeah. That's all maggot filled and disgusting, and it's just horrible. And he will clean it up and make it white as snow.
Yeah.
Just like our lives and what Christ can do to our life.
Yeah.
And we showed that at one of the first Beast Feasts that we did, and it was like very well received. Just very powerful, very well received. And the Lord just keeps giving me ideas. We did another one called The Reservation. Based off of my tracks that are down, a couple of my tracks that are down on the table. Yeah. Reservation for a hunting trip, or the reservation for a fishing trip. And the idea that, I got it cut. My wife is asking me in the video, hey, are you sure you got all the details squared? Like, and I'm like, dude, I shook the guy's hand at the sports show. He knows I'm coming. We're good to go, no problem. And I get there, and it's, my buddy Carl plays the outfitter guy, and he's like, sorry, bud, you're not on the list. I mean, you're not.
Yeah.
No, man, sorry. And actually, here's the guy coming right up the road that is actually on the list. And so, and I'm just dejected. But the idea is, many will say to me, Lord, Lord, have I not, called on your name? They think they're going to heaven, but buddy, they are not. And so that was one of the other ones. And then we did one called "What's Your Story." The idea, is I have all my pictures, a ton of pictures up on a big wall, and I go through and just remember different hunts of all these pictures, whatever, and then there's the idea that we're pretty pumped about our successes, and I could tell you stories of all of these hunts, and I got all of them right, but there's another story that's even more important than these, and it's a story of what Christ did on Calvary, and so that's another one that we did. So I got so many, and I got so many more ideas, and this guy Gary, who, like I said, the Lord puts people in your life.
Oh, absolutely.
Gary's the guy that had got me into the video aspect of what I do. Okay. For the ministry. Yeah. And I am rough at it. Okay. I've come a long way in understanding Premiere Pro and understanding a lot of the the nuances and how to get around it.
Yeah.
But like just recently, I had him kind of just go over one of my videos that I was doing, just a hunting video that I had on my YouTube channel. And oh man, he took me all over the place. And I'm just like, I wrote some of the stuff down. I'm just like, I don't even know where you went. I don't even know where you went in the program to get there. Like, how did you do that? You know? And so my stuff is rough.
Yeah.
But what you see at the Outdoor Expo here, the finished product is Gary.
Okay.
Yeah. I have the idea.
But still, like there's the artistic idea in your head.
Right. I have the idea, and I have the script all written out, and he'll John, think that we'll scratch that part of the script, or scratch this, whatever, and we'll work together on it. We'll refine it, we'll fine tune it, whatever, and then what you see that finished product, though, I have the rough cut idea in my head, but everything else is Gary. I mean, when it comes to the music, it comes to the, just the
editing and
cinematography that he puts in there. That's Gary.
Okay.
So
you should have had Gary do a little more work on that bear video with your son. Not that you want to be dishonest, but
no kidding.
For those listening that were not able to be at the game dinner either night, Joel is in the middle of paying for a transgression. We'll say. It was a rainy day.
Yep.
And from a distance, because even on the video, it very much looks like a black bear.
Absolutely.
And so you hear you say in the video to your son, it's a black bear. Like, take it.
Go for it. Yeah, take it. It's a black.
And so as it goes through, and you even, I vividly remember hearing you say, hey, shoot through the tree.
Yep. That's exactly right. Yeah.
But it was, like you said, it was rainy.
Yep. The bear's coat was black.
Yes.
It was dark. It was totally black.
But it ended up being a smaller grizzly. Mm-hmm. And that's a $10,000 lesson plus some. So
it is.
Literally. So
actually more with lawyer fees. So a lot more.
I was gonna say that, not that we would want Gary to literally edit that video to lie about it.
Correct.
But still, you could have been dishonest and never turned it in.
I could have dumped it in the creek that was very close to us.
Yes. And sometimes, that's an interesting thing, not to get off on a sidetrack.
Sure.
But like, God calls us to be honest and to live beyond reproach.
Yeah.
And sometimes we think that if that's the case, then people will honor that and turn a blind eye to it. Mm-hmm. But the reality is sometimes, now granted, your testimony is still one that is, and that's what matters.
Yeah, that's what matters.
Honesty matters more than money.
Absolutely.
But man, at the end of the day, a $10,000 check, like that's, that
dude.
still is coming due, which I know. Yeah, but
2 months.
Yeah. And I mean, so that's something that, like, man, living a God-honoring life is doesn't always mean
easy.
that everything works out to your advantage.
Correct. Absolutely. Yeah.
And so, which is a great lesson. But anyways, I could go down a really long rabbit trail.
Yeah. For real.
I love the fact, and I'm bouncing around a little bit, and I forget today, just because it was something that you got to send to your son and he responded. Mm-hmm. But today you got a chance to have a little fun.
I did. I had a lot of fun.
And what'd you get a chance to do today?
So what's awesome is I've spoken at some of these retreats in the past, and like just this past fall, I spoke at another one in Eastern Pennsylvania, and my buddy was at that one. He says, "Hey Joel, let's go down and do an archery hunt with your son in Maryland."
Yeah.
And so as sometimes these opportunities arise, and it's awesome. My son was able to shoot a huge buck over in Maryland, so that was a lot of fun. That's
awesome. Yeah.
But this trip, it was God. I mean, this was awesome. When you called me, for those listening, Malcolm called me, and I'll tell you that what happened is I think you called my secretary first because you were looking for my number and you couldn't find my number, and then somebody.
What happened was, I think. There's a website where I first got your name.
Yes.
Because I just did a search online, and I'm trying to get whoever to find
God's
someone
Great Outdoors
new.
Radio.
Yes.
God's Great Outdoors Radio. Yeah.
And then I think they still had the church that you worked at. Because I called it was the church secretary, and I could tell she's like, he hasn't worked here. And there was a number of people I ended up calling.
Right.
And
she's actually, I spoke to her the other day.
Yeah,
and not about this situation, but we're still good friends. She's awesome, and so she gave you my number.
Gave you the contact or gave me the contact information for you.
And so when I walked into my office or my secretary's office there at my business, and I looked up on the wall, and she said, "Oh, somebody called for you, and wants you to speak or something, And I looked, I'm like, "What?" So I looked up on the wall and I see your name, and I'm like, "Huh, okay." And I can't remember what she wrote, but I was like, wow, all right, this is great. I'm excited about this. So that's when I called you back. And man, when you said, Erie and 2 days Sports Expo, I was like, oh, I can't wait. Let's do this, right?
Yes.
Let's do this. So when we came in, and we worked out the details, I was stoked. And my wife knew. She's like, oh, yeah,
Yeah.
So I was stoked because back when I lived in the Pocono Mountains, I would make this trip out here, and I would fish right here in Erie, Walnut Creek, and I just loved fishing the steelhead, as we've mentioned earlier. And so then when you sent me the message and said, well, we might be able to get you on
weather permitting, like if the streams thaw,
right.
like would you want to? Like I asked, because I didn't want to assume. Would you want to possibly?
Right. And what's funny is, because you're like, if the weather, and I'm like, he doesn't know what I've actually fished in.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I've been up to Pulaski, New York fishing a lot of times, and it's close to, below 10 degrees. Yeah. Okay. And my eyelids are freezing up. And, it's just, I've got my hunting coveralls on underneath my waders. I got hand warmers in the pockets. So I'm just like, dude, it really doesn't. It has to get super cold for me not to want to fish.
I forget if your email said you would literally break the ice in the stream to fish, but I remember you said something about like rain, sleet, snow coming down. If the stream's still going, like I will fish in any weather.
I pretty much die hard. I have no problem fishing, and that actually happened with my father-in-law when he came out to visit me here when we lived in the Poconos. I told him, I said, hey, well, we'll run out one of those 2 of those days, whatever. Run out to Erie, Walnut Creek, and we'll hit the fish, the steelies, and have some fun, right? So we drove all the way out 6 hours after a Sunday night after service. Drove 6 hours out here, crashed in the truck a little bit, a car. I can't remember what we brought out, but anyway, get up. The Walnut Creek access was just jam packed with fish, and it was like, oh, this is gonna be. I mean, you could almost walk across the top of them. So it's like, this would be awesome. I caught 2. He snagged one, got away. Then I think another one he might have caught.
Yeah.
And it literally, the sky opened up with thunder showers and lightning, and it was snowing, sleeting, hailing.
It was all lightning.
The above. It was all the above. Yeah. Thunder, whatever.
That's Erie weather. No.
Right. And literally in a half hour to an hour, the whole place was washed out. We couldn't even fish it. It was unfishable. So here we are, 6 hours. We got out, fished for 45 minutes, whatever it was. Caught 3 fish, and we're heading back 6 hours to go back to the Pocono Mountains. So I was stoked because if there was a chance that I could get to hit these waters one more time. Man, that was awesome. And today I was able to go with Kurt, Captain Kurt Charters.
Yes.
And dude, the guy was awesome. We actually have a lot in common.
Absolutely.
Because he used to own a landscape business, and we both love the outdoors. He actually loves the fishing aspect more, and I'm more. I mean, I love the fishing aspect, but at this point where I am in my life and where I live, Cody, Wyoming. I'm huge into the hunting aspect, the big game hunting and elk hunting stuff. So. We have a lot in common, and we just had a great time together out on God's creation today on the stream, and caught. I think I probably hooked into about 20 fish, and I bet I landed 13 or something like that.
Which is you had some great pictures, and as I picked you up and we were coming to do this, you're like, hey, I got to send some of these to my son.
Yes, and he's so jealous.
Yes, but that's great that you got that chance.
Yeah, that's awesome. So thank you for hooking me up with that.
Oh, absolutely, and that was that. Yeah, Kurt is very gracious, and he runs a tremendous business. Yeah. And also a great man of God.
It was good talking to him.
So,
about it.
Yeah. So the big winner for tonight, as you know, whoever the free door prizes that we give out, the big winner tonight will be a 3-hour boat charter with Kurt. Up to 3 people, and that'll be a very coveted prize by people. So that'll be neat.
Oh, that's awesome.
And obviously, usually we don't have a time limit, and we still have some time.
Sure.
But I want to make sure we get to this other thing.
Sure.
There's a couple more things I want to get to. One is, first of all, where do people go? I know that you have joelproffit.com.
Yeah.
Your website, and that's something that people should go to.
Yep.
And just for those listeners, Joel, Joel, and then Proffit is spelled Proffit.
Yep.
So 2 F's, 1 T.
Correct.
And joelproffit.com, and they can look at a lot of the free videos that you talk about.
Yeah.
That'll also give them a link to your YouTube page.
Yeah, you can get on. Well, the videos are on my YouTube page. They're just linked right back to my website.
Okay.
So yeah, you get once you're on
yeah.
that, you can get in. I have over 500 videos of just
Yeah.
wild game hunts,
Yeah.
whatever, just a ton of different things.
Absolutely.
Of Wyoming and animals,
which is. And I remember kind of getting lost in your YouTube page, like before we had talked,
right.
As I was trying to do my research. But one of the things that really struck my interest was the, so what do you call it? Like a short form documentary of Broken?
Pretty much. Yep.
And so is it 4 or 6 videos?
There's 5 videos.
5.
If
okay,
you go to the playlist, I have 6 videos on there because I also have a little. The video I sent you that you put on the page.
Yes,
the quick advertisement.
Yeah, yeah.
So there's 6 videos on there, but there's actually 5 in the Broken series.
In the Broken series.
Yeah.
And that's what you use. You've used very small clips of that, during your talk last night and tonight. But it's a tremendous story. And it actually won an award, right?
It did, yeah. And actually, it's up for another one here shortly.
Nice,
so
nice.
yeah,
extremely well done. Talking about your hunt in 2021 of a broken bull, and how what many people would view as I'm just going to let that pass and wait for another bull,
right.
Like you decided to go after. And
correct.
Hunt,
yeah. Something that somebody would have considered less valuable.
Yeah.
And not as
And like you even say, like, man, that one side is magnificent.
Yeah.
Like
it's huge.
It's
like,
awesome.
Oh yeah.
But it's broken.
That's right.
So like it's very much those that
damaged.
Yeah, like damaged goods, leave it alone.
Right.
I don't really, if
I don't want that on my wall.
Yeah. So many people that were going for a big bull, like
trophy.
They would just let that pass.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's not special. It's
it's
not worth as much as I originally would have thought. And so but I saw it as something special.
Yes.
I've never shot one like this before. It's unique. It's
like you saw the beauty in it.
Oh yeah.
And one of the things I haven't asked you yet, obviously the video goes into just how much God goes after the broken.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the beauty of we are all broken.
Absolutely.
And we are all flawed, and you do a tremendous amount tying it into Scripture. And at the end of the day, it is only through Jesus that we are made whole again. And so you use it, and it's such a great tie through through all 5 of the videos, and going through that and using this hunting story as a tremendous, like you called it, a modern day parable,
right?
Which is great. And I don't want to give it too much away because I really want to encourage people to go watch it.
Go check it out.
Because I watched through the video series before we even talked, and I was like, man, this is legit,
Yeah.
But it is such a tremendous opportunity to then use it as a witness, and to use it even, it's free. Like
it's absolutely
all
free. That's why I wanted that to be free.
Yeah.
At one point I thought, I should try to charge to cover some of the costs of making this thing. But
it's not free. Like, what's not free is making it.
That's exactly right. I do pay Gary,
Yeah.
And that's funny because the Lord worked that out too. So Gary was working for Best of the West for a number of years. Best of the West ended up selling. New owners, and I'm good friends with the new owners. And they still support our organization and different things, but through some changes they were making, Gary had to be let go. Okay. And so I had always said, man, if I could, I would love to get Gary to work for me, but I cannot pay him what they're paying him. There's no way on earth.
Especially when you're not charging for stuff.
Oh, dude. Yeah. Especially,
Yeah.
And so we came to an agreement, and he now works for me.
Okay.
And he and I have done a lot of work together on over the years since 2010, 11, whatever. We've done a lot of work together on videos like this and Polestar Outdoors videos for kids, and he's taught me a lot about filming and different things. But he now works for me. He does my he does all my media for my business.
Okay.
I'll tell him, hey, we just finished a job out at XYZ Road. Go check it out. Take video, take pictures. Some of the stuff he'll do with drone footage and all that kind of stuff. And so he has helped out our business quite a bit. But in the meantime, I also, because he works for me now, I pay him to do this as well.
Yeah.
So it's like, man, do I charge for the videos? Do I not? And it's like, well, no, I'm just gonna leave it. And the Lord just put on my heart. I'd never written a book before in my life, and so I thought, well, let me try this. Let's give it a shot. And so I did. I wrote the book, which kind of follows along, but it's in more detail.
Yeah,
it's a little more detail than the videos, and goes into some more of my stories in the outdoors and bringing those into kind of into play in the whole circle of the story, And so, and it also has a study guide with it. I thought, I'm going to make this to where if a church wants to, they can, if there's a couple of guys that want to have a little Bible study with the outdoors loving people of the church, let's make an opportunity for them to have a questionnaire at the end of each chapter they can work through, with somebody, So that's what I did, and my dad helped me edit it. Gary helped me edit all the pictures and stuff. He helped me with the cover and October it came out, and the Lord has blessed it. It's not going to be a top selling author.
Or but nothing, that helps to possibly God uses that to supplement some of the other stuff being there for free. Mm-hmm. And I think it's amazing that God's provided in that way, because it is tremendous, and not there. And I get it. Like, people need to pay for stuff, but so often you hear a speaker and they point you to their website. Like, you pointed and said, hey, you can buy some shirts if you want. You can buy the book, but all the videos of presenting the gospel.
Yeah, they're free.
It's all free.
Yep, it's all free online.
All the stuff that maybe you could use for your friends, that you could use, if you're here and you're not a believer, but you want to really look into this.
Absolutely.
And so I love that aspect.
Yeah.
And how God's blessing it to continue to be that way. So again, I encourage you to go to joelproffit.com, JoelProffit.com to look at those videos. One thing that I think is as an encouragement to everyone, we talked about the fact that, at one time, and when you were sharing your story with me,
sure,
because I had the privilege of picking you up from the Cleveland airport, so we had an hour and a half.
Had some time to chat.
Yeah. So just to get to know each other some, you referenced when you were in full-time vocational ministry, and then you asked me the question of, hey, so I went from full-time vocational ministry back into the secular world. How was it for you? Because for me, I was a teacher and I loved teaching at the public school and coaching. And then God called me into full-time vocational ministry. And we joked about the fact that, so often, there's this mentality shift of we are all in full-time ministry as followers of Christ.
Well, I think the incorrect mentality is only the pastors in ministry.
Yes.
Only the youth pastors in ministry. Only the worship pastors in ministry. And that's a very incorrect assessment of the true calling of God on our lives.
Yes.
And I grew up in a very conservative world. And ministry was pushed big time, and I don't fault that at all. I think that's good, but at the same time, is the pastor the only quote minister unquote?
Yeah,
in true ministry, in the idea of true ministry. And I think if we look at Christ and his disciples,
yeah.
I mean, no, Sunday was not the only day of ministry.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Every single day is a day of ministry.
Yeah.
Does that mean we don't need the pastors? Does that mean we don't need youth pastors? No, it's not. Because what they're meant to be there for a reason. They're meant to equip the saints for the work of the ministry.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Right? They're meant to equip the saints for the work of the ministry. Well, wait a minute. If just the pastor, youth pastor, and worship leader are the ministers, well then, what are the rest of the saints doing?
Yeah.
Rest of the saints are to be ministering every other day of the week.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, they're there. They're at the church service to be encouraged by the pastor, youth pastor, and be equipped to go out in their jobs, in their hobbies.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
In their hobbies, in everyday life, to minister to this world.
Yeah.
And so, we talked about how there's this incorrect assessment amongst Christians, a lot of Christians, not all, but a lot of Christians, that they are there to just sit in church, and the rest of the week is just kind of their life and for them and whatever. And man, it just dawned on me years ago, as I told you years ago, that wait a minute, no, I mean, here I have this business, I'm starting this business, and when I talked to Dave, my right-hand man, I'm like, Dave, we have to make some money. Yeah. There's no question. But at the same time, this thing is not just here for us to make money. Yeah. We are here as a ministry, and we're here to minister to individuals. The guys that work for us, our clients, and boy, oh boy, I've had some very, very, very difficult situations to work through because I care about ministry to my guys. Yeah. Very difficult. I mean, extremely difficult.
Yeah, and you said at this point, it's not always been like this, but God has grown it to the point, like in the summertime, you have 30 employees.
Correct.
And sometimes, well, not sometimes, because this is the case for Christians in the church, all of those employees have mess.
Oh, yeah.
Like
absolutely.
Life is messy.
Yeah.
And the ability for you to pour into their life, show them that you care, and then all of a sudden your words, if you bring up Christ to the atheist employee, that we talked about, or whatever, they're going to, at the end of the day, they might not agree.
Correct. Yeah, and they don't have to agree with me. That's fine.
But they'll listen.
Yeah, and I'll listen to them.
Yes.
And we can have a great conversation. And we can agree that, you know what? Okay, you're not going to agree with me, and I'm not going to agree with you. But you know what? I still love you.
Yeah.
I'm still your friend, and I still care about you and your family. I'm still going to pray for your wife. I'm still going to pray for your kids if they're, sick. I'm still going to offer to bring you lunch or pizza or whatever if you're in a stuck spot in life, and I'm still going to offer that, know. And just because we may disagree a little bit on life doesn't mean that I'm your enemy.
Yeah.
And that in and of itself is ministry.
Absolutely.
And as I was telling you, you mentioned something as we began the program where you had mentioned something about me talking to my pastor's wife.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where this comes into play because we had a good conversation last Sunday, and they're building a house right now. Her and her husband, our pastor, are building a house right now. And so her husband is construction savvy, and so he'll go out and help the guys a little bit, and he'll also talk to him, and he has a desire obviously to bring up the Lord with him, know, and obviously it's and he and I have talked at great length in the past on how he's like, man, I would love to be able to be more out in your shoes, Joel, ministering and just working with people that are not churchgoers, like unsaved and not don't know the Lord, and I would love to be able to be pouring into their lives as well, right?
Yeah.
And so this is his chance to do so, right?
Yeah.
With the guys that are working on his house, and so he's out there, and she relayed to me that it's so difficult because every time you try to bring up the Lord, it's like there goes a wall up, know?
Yep.
There's the wall. If they were talking before, they ain't talking now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I said, Her name's Val, and I says, Val, that's the difference.
Yeah.
That right there is the difference between the two different styles of ministry. No, I shouldn't say styles. The two different worlds of ministry that we're in.
Yep.
Okay. Because they know he's a pastor.
Yep.
Okay?
Oh yeah.
They expect him to come out with the Bible.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they really don't want to hear the Bible from a pastor.
Yes.
Okay. There's a bad.
Oh, absolutely.
Just
absolutely.
I don't want to do it. But on my side of things, I've moved from full-time ministry, part-time ministry in a church, volunteer ministry in a church, whatever, to full-time ministry in a secular world, in a secular place of business, right? Yeah. And I'm with the world every single day. Right.
Oh,
I'm not with Christians, right? Mm-hmm. I don't live with Christians every day, right?
Yeah.
And my guys know that I'm a Christian.
Mm-hmm.
I tell them when they come for an interview, I'm a Christian, and I don't back down from that. Now, what does that look like while you're here at work? It doesn't look like I come and beat you over the head with the Bible.
Yeah.
You don't have to believe the way I believe. I actually tell them that. I say, I don't care. You don't have to believe the way I believe, but I expect you to respect that.
Yeah.
To respect my position, and I'll respect your position.
Yeah.
But what does it look like? It looks like every day that I can, not every day, but every day that I can, if I'm there, guess what? We're going to gather around, and I'm just going to start the day with prayer.
Yeah.
And it, I'm just going to pray for safety. Mm-hmm. I'm going to ask the Lord that He, help us be efficient, help us not to take our work for granted, and thank Him for the breath of the day. And then I might before I pray say, hey, so how is so and so's mom doing today? She was sick, or hey, so and so went to the hospital for a checkup. How did that work out? Is that all right? You know, and actually just recently we had one of our employees. They had him and his fiance had some very significant concerns with the baby that they were having. And, they had to have blood transfusions in the womb, and there was some major conflict with that, and some concern. And so we prayed with them through that whole thing, actually helped them with some gas money. And, it's really just want them to know we care about them, and anything we can do, that's what, when I say we're a Christian company, when I say I'm a Christian, that's what I mean.
Yeah, and I think there's so often, and there's a fine line because accountability needs to be had.
Absolutely.
And all of those things. Mm-hmm. But the reality is there's a lot of people there are some people that are believers, and they might be in a position of leadership or ownership, and then you hear, man, they don't act like they're Christians.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
I don't feel they care about me at all.
Absolutely.
And they're always talking down to me or whatever, And so there's the element of portraying Christ by your actions.
Absolutely.
In the same regard, like it is tremendous, like to hear from people in the community that are not believers that are like, this person, like, I can tell there's a difference with this person.
Sure.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me at all that they go to your church,
Yeah.
Or if you say something like, oh, yeah, I know them. Where do you know them from? Oh, from church. Like we,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You know what? That makes sense. Or, they said they go to that church. And, and I see, and this is how, caring they are or whatever. And I think it's just that our conversation, it was a tremendous reminder of the importance of everyone.
Yeah.
And especially like there is a spot for the church in evangelism, like things like tonight.
Absolutely.
Which is great. But the reality is if your main attempt at evangelism is to not build in a relationship, but just invite your friend to church and have the pastor preach the gospel to save them, they're going to listen to
rethink.
Yeah, they're going to listen to you way more than 100%. A stranger on stage that they're
100%.
skeptical about anyways because of some of the things in the media that pastors have done, and
Oh, absolutely.
And so it is so vital
Right.
For us to remember of that ministry that we're all personally called to as followers of Christ.
Absolutely. And when I'm now for 10 years, I've been doing this, right, in my business.
Yes.
Right. For 10 years. And some of my guys have been with me for 6 years, 5 and 6 years, right? And they don't believe the way I believe still.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's fine. That's okay.
Yes.
But I can tell you one thing, they know I care.
Yes. And they also know the gospel.
They've heard the gospel numerous times.
So,
okay. And they're much more willing to listen to me than the construction guys at my pastor's home are to listen to him.
Yes.
Right. And there's a reason, because I've spent time with these guys. I am with them every day. They see me in my struggles, and I've shared numerous struggles with them. I mean, this whole Broken series came out of a struggle. Okay. Literally a very, very difficult life thing that went on, life, which was a difficulty, I guess you could say. That was in my life, and some of them know what some of the stuff I went through, and the difficulty I went through there, and I shared it with them. I said, guys, this is where the Broken series came from. Yeah, but this is where God touched me, and this is how God
brought you through.
Right. This is the verses He gave me, and I've shared that with them in their brokenness, in their hurts, in some different difficulties and some court dates or different life challenges these guys have gone through. I've shared the Broken series with them, and it's just been, I've brought some of them to tears. Yeah. And it's I've been real with them. Just say, guys, here's where. Yeah, here's where God's brought me, and I'm not above you. Yeah, I'm facing. I face life too, man, and it is sometimes it rots, and yet here's what God has done for me, and here's this broken book, and you're not the only one going through it. That right there was a huge part. I can't even remember where I've got it because I've cut and pasted and moved things around so much. But one of the videos is called "Broken Together," and one of the main things, going through my struggle, and again, I don't want to be like, oh man, I went through my struggle and mine was worse than anybody else's. No, that's not the way it is. Yeah, no. But when you're going through it, you think that yours is not as bad. You think yours is worse than anybody else's, and nobody can relate, and nobody can understand what you're going through, and so you get this idea, and it's a deceitful idea that Satan wants you to have,
because it's a lie from the enemy.
That's right, it's a lie from the enemy. You're the only one going through this. Yeah. Nobody knows what you're going through.
So
nobody
just stay
can relate.
Isolated. Don't reach out. Don't.
That's exactly right. And to the point where some people are suicidal at that point. They want it to end, right? Mm-hmm. And so that right there has been a huge, just that one alone, Broken Together. Yeah. If we get our eyes off of ourselves, get our eyes out of the mirror, okay, and look around us at people around us, we are going to find such brokenness. Yeah. That actually it's our responsibility as Christians to reach out for that brokenness, and seek to bring them in.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So this idea of I'm the only one is actually a selfish idea. Yeah, it's eyes on myself, right? And so, as I mentioned, if I were to have seen all the bulls on the mountain that day, right? And the bulls that actually I put in the video are other bulls that I took pictures of, on a different location. But the idea is, man, if I would have seen all the bulls on the mountain that day, because it's late in the season, all right, they've already been through the rut, and that's when they get in all the fights and everything, and that's when they break their end. Man, you know how many more would have been broken?
Would have been broken. Yep.
As they came out of the woodwork, man, I bet you half of them probably would have broken pieces and parts and whatever all over the place. And so it's like, man, if I just open my eyes and look around, I'm going to find not just me, but I'm going to find many, many more people around me that are just hurting and going through difficulty and going through trouble and life circumstances, and their chest hurts because they're depressed and they don't want to wake up in the morning because they have to face it again, whatever it is, Could be family relationship, could be business issues, could be finances, could be health, loss of a loved one, could be addiction, alcohol abuse, you name it, could be anything like that. But But if we open our eyes and look around, there's so many more broken people around here, than just me going through my little instance.
Absolutely. Right? And that is, and I love to end with this, like, that's the example of Jesus. He wasn't looking for the who's who.
Right.
His 12 were pretty broken.
Oh boy.
And then like just all of the miracles that he did were people that he should have avoided at all costs if he went by the cultural norm.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like to heal a leper or to go to, the prostitute or the Mary Magdalene or like any of them. Like, it's like, no. He should have ran.
Right.
And those were the ones that he specifically went to, or at least that Scripture has account of. He went to many more than what Scripture, tells. But God wanted that in Scripture to remind us of our call to the broken.
And here's an interesting thing: is like, did Jesus tell his disciples like, the only time you're in ministry is when you're preaching to the 5,000.
Yeah. No, it's
really, is that what he said?
Yeah.
The only time you're in ministry is on the Sabbath.
Yeah,
that's the only time you're in ministry. No, I mean, I see him. Actually, I mean, the coin in the fish's mouth.
Yes.
Hey, he used. I mean, he was a fisherman.
Yep,
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And the net full of fish. I mean. Yeah. God used their passion.
Yes.
That was their passion, right? That was what they did in life.
Yes.
That's their hobby, their job. That was what they did in life, right? God used that for ministry.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm like, okay, so why can't I use hunting as a ministry?
Yeah.
What, right?
I would say it's an absolute chance to have
the
ministry be used.
Let's utilize the hobbies God gave me the passions that I have. God gave you the passions. You have a passion for coaching, and we were just talking about you coaching hurdles, right?
Yeah.
I mean, dude, the life examples you could bring out of hurdles, hurdling over life obstacles, right?
Yes,
I mean, come on, running life's race and having to hurdle over the obstacles. Dude, you got a message right there, right? To the kids that you're dealing with every single day. And so why don't we utilize everything that God's given us?
Yes.
For him and see, whether it be our hobbies, whether it be our job, whether it be the weekend, whether it be whatever it is. So it's just a passion of mine, my friend.
For sure.
So
thank you so much for the conversation. It could go on quite a bit, but I do see people coming in for tonight's dinner.
It's time for us to go eat.
And the tremendous amount of opportunity of ministry for that as well. But thank you for the conversation. And for those watching or listening, once again, the encouragement to look for the ministry in everyday life.
Absolutely.
Look for the ministry in your vocation, in your hobbies.
Yeah.
Like, look for those people that you already have connection with, because God orders our steps. God orders the steps of those in our lives. And those people are in your life for a reason.
Absolutely.
There's brokenness all around us. There's a lot of brokenness in the mirror when we look at it.
Absolutely.
And like you said, so we're broken together. So look for how can we use that in ministry to grow God's kingdom and point people to Jesus.
And I'd like to say, the videos are on the YouTube channel. The YouTube channel itself, you're just going to the YouTube channel, it's Broken Made New.
Okay, so, Broken Made New.
Yeah, Broken. You could type in Broken.
Yeah.
It's got half of a rack there, half of an elk rack. But Broken Made New, and also I'm on Instagram.
Okay.
You can find me on Instagram, Rumble. I don't get on Rumble as much, but it's on Rumble. But also my Facebook is actually Outdoor Ministries.
Okay.
There's an Outdoor Ministries page on Facebook there. And please look me up. Love to connect with everybody. And, man, use the videos. Please share the videos. Get them out there. Share and
and use that.
And the book is available not just on my website, but anywhere that any major book retailer has it.
On
Amazon, Kindle, Barnes and Noble. So it's out there.
It's available, which is great.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you again for your time, and thank you for all those for joining us. Continue to seek those opportunities to witness to the broken in your life and to share your brokenness and how Christ redeemed you. And moving forward. Well, thank you for joining us in the Federated Squared Circle, Wrestling with God's Word. We'll see you next week.